Hi, it's Sandy Wyllie. Welcome to my mental health channel, 50 Shades of Black and White, where I wipe away the stigma of mental illness by talking about my own personal experiences as a patient having borderline personality disorder. I talk about narcissism. I grew up with a narcissistic mother. Schizophrenia, post-traumatic stress disorder, panic attacks, and a plethora of other mental health issues. But I only come on as a former patient. I am not a professional therapist. I do not even hold a degree in psychology. So I cannot give you a professional opinion. I can only give you my own personal opinion. It's not professional. I am not a doctor. I am not a therapist. I only ask one thing of you, and that is to be kind to me, kind to everyone else in the comments. Please do not show hate to anyone, okay? Do not be rude. Do not be insensitive. And if you like what you see, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, welcome. And please, if you haven't already, please subscribe. It's totally free. So today I'm going to talk about how I was easily manipulated. How I was easily manipulated by narcissistic psychologists. Now, as you know, narcissistic people, they kind of like hone in on their prey. And I probably have, I'm wearing like, how you wear a big L in your forehead? Loser, like that song says. I wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed. And I think that, narcissistic people kind of like can zoom in on that and hone in on that, and they know, which people they can well take advantage of. Of course, when you go to therapy, you are vulnerable. I've talked about this many times before on my other videos, that you are looking for help. You are paying professional people who have a degree, a high degree, who took an oath, do no harm, who are licensed, who hold licenses that are regulated by the boards, okay? So they just don't dole out these licenses to anyone. You have to take tests. You have to have years and years of education. You have to have degrees. So when you go to a professional, you expect, especially a doctor, especially one from Harvard and one from Yale. I know I've already done a video about this, but so I'm just going to, in this video, focus on, what those doctors did to easily play me. So that you will see that, and it's not just like medical professionals or psychologists. It could be anyone, any narcissistic person. They probably do these same things that these narcissistic psychologists did. We all know what love bombing is. It's a well-known term now. People use it interchangeably, quite frequently, with someone just coming on really, really heavy and really strong and giving you, think about a bomb, just bombing you. When a bomb drops, that's the narcissistic person's, that's their number one weapon, is love bombing, okay? Because after you've been love bombed, given so much attention, and like I said, it's usually they can target their victims because we're very insecure. We're probably very lonely. I was very insecure. I was very lonely. I just lost my parents back to back, 3 months apart. I was only 38 years old. And here I was an orphan. I was an only child. I didn't have any siblings. I didn't have, I didn't have anyone to turn to. Nobody out there. I mean, I did have friends at that stage, but not friends I could rely on. They all called me. They relied on me. I didn't rely on them. That's why I ended up having no friends, because they were the ones always calling me with their problems. I didn't have, when I wanted to talk about my problems, I'll let you go. Bye. So I was very lonely and very insecure. And this is what the narcissist preys on: lonely, insecure people to love bomb. And so all of these psychologists, Dr. Richard Geist, Dr. Jeffrey Forking, and Dr. James Barbaria, they knew that by giving me loads and loads of their personal time and care, that I would just, eat that up. Let's take Dr. Richard Geist, okay? He told me he wanted to see me 5 hours a week, and I told him, I can't do that. My insurance will only cover like one 50-minute session a week, for 6 months or something. Insurance is not gonna. And he sat there and said, oh, don't worry, you're special, I'll see you for free. You never have to pay me. You see, that is an example of love bombing. All this time for free? I mean, I was floored. Here's my house number in Maine. You can call me anytime you want. Here's my cell number. You can call me anytime you want. 24/7. I call him in the middle of the night on vacation and wake him up. And he said, Sandy, is that you? Oh, it's so good to hear your voice. This is at 2 a.m. when he's on vacation in Maine. And he's saying how wonderful it is that I woke him up. You see, this too good to be true, this constant attention. And I was craving this from an older man. He was 22 years older than me, and I just lost my dad. My dad died at 71 years old, and I was still young. My children, my son was in the hospital at that time, with severe traumatic brain injury. He lost his mind. I had no one really to turn to. And here's this Harvard psychologist who was quite handsome, very charming, and just doting on me, telling me how special and beautiful I am, and giving me all this attention and all this time. I mean, coming over to me, putting his arms around me, sitting on the couch with me, letting me sit in his lap, all this attention. And then what happens is, once you're hooked, then they pull it away. But it's too late. You're already hooked, That's why I didn't believe on taking drugs. I didn't even try pot, because I figured I'm easily addicted to things. Having borderline personality disorder, that if I even attempt to try drugs or something, that I probably would become a drug addict. So I stayed away from it. But I didn't recognize that love bombing can make you a drug addict. Not a drug addict, a love addict. Sorry. A love addict, but it feels like a drug. It has the same effect, euphoric, effect of a drug. And so once they withdraw it, my body could not react. I really just, my body broke down because it was a drug. It is. The endorphins in that kind of love bombing is equal to drugs. It changes, it alters your brain. There is studies on this. Now, I didn't look it up, and I don't have the statistics in front of me, but it is very true. The kind of high that you get from that love bombing is the same as being high on a drug. Okay, so, and when the narcissistic person, pulls that away, then you respond like, a drug addict would, having severe withdrawals. This is what happened to me. So you always got to put up boundaries, all right? And I'm not just talking about in therapy, all right? This unfortunately happened to me in therapy, but it can happen to you with your boyfriends. It can happen to you with your parents. It can, it doesn't have, this, manipulation and love bombing abuse happened to me in my therapy by a narcissistic psychologist, but it can happen to you with narcissistic parents or narcissistic boyfriends or girlfriends or narcissistic spouses. You see, it's the same thing. It's the same effect. And my body just like completely shut down, couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I couldn't function. I mean, I had panic attacks around the clock, crippling, like I was going to die. Basically, you pass out almost. You black out, you pass out. You feel like, you can't function. If anyone out there has a panic attack, that some of them can be so crippling that you feel like, you're on death's door. That literally any moment you will die. It feels like that. You're completely out of control. Your head is spinning. You're dizzy. You're going to pass out. You just sweating profusely. Your heart is racing. You feel like you're going to have like a heart attack. You feel like this is it. This is the end. And imagine having that feeling, hour after hour, day after day. It's like withdrawal from a drug. So how do you prevent that? I just don't want to come on and say, okay, this is how it was manipulated. It was through love bombing. But let's talk about how to prevent that, okay? How to prevent that is by putting up boundaries with people, because you're not going to realize that these people who do that are narcissistic. They're really messed up themselves, even worse than you are, because I don't go around manipulating people and love bombing people like that, So what you can do is put the boundary up. Do not, I should have known not to, like if, in my situation, I should have known that was, that was just unheard of, and I did think it was unheard of, and I just couldn't believe it. I felt so special because he kept saying how special I was, and so I was eating that up because I never really felt special. My parents never made me feel special. No one, I didn't feel that. And, he made me all these promises, how he was never going to leave me. And I just ate that up because, I never had those feelings in my life. This was the first time. But you really need to put the boundaries up. If you're out there and a man wants to text you, like, don't answer him back. Don't. You don't be texting each other 20 times a day. Don't answer him back. You've got to put those boundaries up. Even if it feels great, and thrilling and exciting, you've got to have that space. You've got to have that emotional space. You've got to put those boundaries up, or you will be sucked in the vortex of the narcissist who will love bomb you. You've got to have an independent life from the person. You can't be constantly checking your phone and messaging back and forth, because it won't stay that level. It will not stay. It will not keep at that level. Believe me, it won't. So if something if you're going to lose yourself in that, don't even start. That's my advice to you. Don't even start. If you see the guy constantly texting you, where are you? Oh, I'm thinking about you, don't answer him back, don't put up the wall, put up the boundary. And if they're not, comfortable with that, then get rid of them. Get rid of them. If they're upset because you're putting up you need your space, then get rid of them, because it's unhealthy. It's unhealthy to be in that, okay? It's unhealthy for the person love bombing you, and it's more unhealthy for you to be love bombed, because you're only going to be hurt in the end. It's only going to ruin your life. Believe me, narcissistic people ruin lives. People will come on and say, well, so do borderline people. Sure, okay, I'm sure we can ruin people's lives. Anyone can ruin someone's life. You don't have to be narcissistic or borderline, or you don't have to have a label slapped on you. But I'm just telling you what to watch out for. And that is the number one thing. The manipulation is through the love bombing, the constant attention, the constant texts, the constant phone calls, the constant wanting to see you round the clock. You've got to put some space there. Put some space. Don't be jumping out there. Don't be jumping out their text. Don't be, whenever they want to see you. Be busy sometimes. Be busy. Don't be available to them. This is what I'm trying to get you to see. Don't be available to them. You've got to have a life of your own. You know why? Because if you have a life of your own, then if something happens with this person, it's okay, because you already have your own life. But if this person becomes your world and something happens to the person, then you've lost your world. You see, it's the amount, that you put onto the person. So don't make the person your world, because when you lose them, then you've lost everything. If they're not your world, then when you lose them, you've only lost, not that much, actually.